Hello Taurus, and welcome to your year 2022 Zodiac forecast. This is for the Sun and also the Ascendant. I'm going to tell you all about the eclipses this year, two of which are in your sign, but also the journey of your ruling planet Venus, which is very, very influential this year. I'm going to share your solar return in those first moments of 2022, which provides a backdrop for the whole year. I'm also going to tell you about the new moon in Taurus, very exciting, and the fact that you have Mercury retrograding in your sign for a brief period. So a lot of information I'm going to share. But before I do, I'd be honoured if you'd subscribe to my channel. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Also, if you see beneath this video, you can subscribe for your free daily horoscope fired to your device first thing each morning. And if you want to ascend above zodiac sign forecasting and discover what year 2022 holds for you as an individual based on your personal birth data, please check out my special offer. This is a year 2022 forecast plus a character analysis, and if you order it in 2021, I'll give you the rest of year 2021 free. You'll get 30% off. If you order later in year 2022, don't worry, you'll still get a full 12-month forecast from the point of order. So that's a very special offer, and it will give you searing insights into how your personal situation can evolve in this upcoming year. But let's begin with taking a look retrospectively at the solar eclipse of the 4th of December. And you may be thinking, why would we be doing this? Well, it's simply that an eclipse period lasts 6 months. So this one occurs with 3 weeks of the year till its end, and therefore its period of activity continues for about another 5.5 months. And this eclipse occurred in the sign of Sagittarius, which for you is very much about where you're most invested. Now that can be financially, it can be emotionally, but Mercury, the planet of communication, is aligned with the Sun and the Moon on that particular event. And that means that your ability to think on your feet in the first half of this year is definitely heightened. And if you're wanting to be more entrepreneurial in the new year, that's a big asset for you. But of course, your ruling planet is the glorious Venus, which is very seductive. And when that eclipse occurs, it's aligned to Pluto, the planet of transformation. So that's telling me that this can also, this 6-month period, be a time of changes around your love life. But as we make our way to that first point of the new year, on the screen I'm sharing your solar return. Now I want you to imagine what it would be like if you went to night school, to art college, and the tutor asked you to take your canvas and put a watercolour on the background, and then take a charcoal and etch out an outline of what you personally want to draw. Now everyone might decide on different subjects. In your case, it might be a person, it could be an animal, or maybe some plant life. But that water wash and that charcoal outline provide the structure that picture will be based upon, and that's what a solar return provides us. So it's going to be active throughout the year for you. And one of the principal things we can see is that Venus is aligned with Pluto still. And that's because Venus went into a retrograde on the 19th of December. In fact, Venus and Pluto were in a conjunction pretty well for the whole of December. So as you come into this new year, that relationship is really going to impact on you throughout 2022. And what Venus and Pluto create together, particularly in the earthy sign of Capricorn, is desire. So your desire to get to the truth of what a relationship is about, because this is your 9th house, the truth, Can also be to do with connections with people further away or from different cultural backgrounds to you. But because Venus is in retrograde as this year begins, I think there's going to be a lot of thinking about the quality of your relationships in general throughout this year. But you can also see that Uranus, that planet of rebelliousness that's been with you full time since March the 7th, 2019, that's squaring, and these are the two rulers of Aquarius. And they're going to be in a right angle through to the 21st of January. But because they're in place at the start of the year, the influence is going to show itself for the whole 12 months. And what I feel that this informs me of around your situation is Saturn's in your sector of success and work, and Uranus is about you, the individual. Saturn can be a bit oppressive, but it is also that it gives us that desire to really apply ourselves to situations that are worth sticking at. But I think you could feel a bit conflicted in your work this year if you feel it's a bit dull, a bit predictable, and it doesn't allow you to flourish in a more creative way. So I think that's going to be a pattern for this year too. Now also, if you see that wheel back on the screen, you can see that there is another Sagittarius influence at the turn of the year, and that is between the Moon and also Mars. Now the Moon's exalted in your sign, so you have a good appreciation of the Moon, but Mars of course is the planet of desire, and the Moon is about our emotions. Together in the 8th house, just like that solar eclipse on the 4th of December, we're talking about your desires, and that desire could be around sex, intimacy or money. But also the midpoint between the Moon in Sagittarius and the Sun at 10 degrees in Capricorn, so the balance of this year for you between the more go-getting energies of the Sun and the more receptive energies of the Moon is actually at 28 degrees Sagittarius, so the 8th house. So you can see that despite the Sun being in the 9th house of Capricorn as the year turns through, and that's going to give you a desire to be adventurous, relationships and money, because Venus does govern money too, are going to be very pivotal to your journey this year. Now there's something else, because on the 19th of January, Taurus, the North Node comes into your sign and it's going to be with you for 18 months through to July 2023. Now the North Node can be quite a fortunate influence, so having it in your own sign can be something that you really appreciate. And the North Node in the first house is very much about having the confidence to be more individualistic. Now, of course, the North Node goes in anti-clockwise direction. It's constantly retracing its steps, so very often in retrograde. But what it does tell me, because at the start of the year, the North Node, just still in Gemini, is squaring up with Jupiter in your 11th house. It tells me that your relationships with others, but particularly friends, could again be shifting based on differing values. So the North Node moving into your sign on the 19th of January is going to give you more confidence to go with what's right for you, the individual. And because you're a sign that really does like a degree of stability, and that can see you sticking at things for the longer term. You're a fixed sign and also earthy, so you like to see tangible security, but tangible rewards for your hard work. But once Venus goes forwards on the 29th of January, I think that that's going to help you to start edging forwards in a more productive way. Now it is true that we have 3 retrogrades with Mercury initially this year, and we have a final small retrograde right at the end of the year in the sign of Capricorn. So those retrogrades, and particularly in terms of your personal sign, will go from May the 23rd to the 2nd of June. So that's going to be in your sign. So you may experience some extreme frustration during that particular time period. But what I would say to you is the retrogrades this year, apart from that final one in Capricorn, all start off in air signs, but all revisit earth signs. So that one with you, which occurs on May the 23rd, and then we have the we have the Aquarius one at the start of the year, that rewinds back into Capricorn, and then we have the Libra one rewinds into Virgo, and finally we have that Capricorn one right at the end of the year. So this suggests to me, because Aquarius for you is 10th house of success, and Gemini is the 2nd house of resources, and Libra is the 6th house of practicalities, you can see that you're going to have to work at the physical plane this year quite hard. And so that's informed very much by that solar eclipse on the 4th of December, and also the solar return at the turn of the year. But there's much more than this coming your way, because the most important new moon of each year is definitely for the sign that I'm addressing. So for you, this year's new moon occurs on April the 30th, but it's also a solar eclipse. So that gives it a lot more power. And this one takes over from that Sagittarius solar eclipse that occurred on the 4th of December last year. And it's going to provide a backdrop for the next 6 months. But what makes it really exciting for you, Taurus, is it's going to be forging a sextile with Mars in the sign of Pisces at that moment, but also a conjunction with Uranus in your sign. So when we get the moon, the sun and Uranus all together, that really points towards an appreciation of innovation, which Uranus governs, an appreciation of resources, which your sign governs. It suggests you're going to be more independently minded. And because Mars is in your sector of your long-term future, don't be surprised if on April the 30th you really do start to take on a much more dynamic approach to what you can do to influence your circumstances. So that's a bit counterintuitive to your basic nature, which can often be to stick rather than twist. So I think there is a real possibility from the end of April that you'll be pioneering forwards in a much more dynamic way. But it's also true that on May the 16th, there's a lunar eclipse in your opposite sign. So that brings into focus relationships. And that also forges a very positive angle to Pluto, which was so important at the start of this year in that conjunction with Venus, your ruler, at retrograde at that time. But it was also in conjunction with Mercury at the turn of the year. So that desire to get to the truth of what your relationships are about. So if you set fair on a fresh course at the end of April, and then you're finding a couple of weeks later that someone's raising objections to the single-mindedness that you're showing, this could be a seminal moment in your relationship, or one particular close one, because what I feel is going to happen here is that Pluto is saying you have to go with the changes that are being presented to you, because that is what's going to feel so important to you at such a deep level. But don't worry, because your relationship sector gets another chance to revisit this whole issue on the 28th of October. And we get the reversal of the two positions. So you have two eclipses in your sign this year, one solar, one lunar, and you have two in your 7th house of Scorpio, one lunar, one solar. So the solar eclipse, which occurs on October the 28th, could bring someone new into your life. And the reason for that is you're going to have a conjunction at that point with your ruler Venus. And that is sensational. I can't stress to you enough how exciting that is. So even if the 6 months from the end of April see you being much more single-minded, perhaps breaking free from restrictions, be it with colleagues, partnerships at work, or friendships that aren't quite working for you, and that may be a bit bumpy on the back of the lunar eclipse mid-May in your opposite sign. As you get through to the 28th of October, the chance for someone new and exciting to come into your world in the last quarter of this year and the first quarter of 2023 is really heightened quite incredibly. Now, it's also true to say that on November the 8th, there is a lunar eclipse in your sign again. So once more, this is really encouraging you to think about what you need as an individual. And that's not to say that you shouldn't look to find harmony, collaboration, cooperation, which is very 7th house energy. But all this year, this eclipse series is asking you to balance what you want for you and what you're prepared to do for others. And if you're in a relationship at the start of the year where you know the truth of it, that relationship doesn't completely fulfill you, I think this year is going to push you to really examine the realities around your situation. On the other hand, if you're in a relationship which is really very good, this can be a year of even greater unity between you and your partner. But that doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't do some of the things that you want to pursue as an individual. And if they're supportive and nurturing of that, then obviously you've got the right relationship. If they find that difficult, that may be something you have to work through. Now, I just want to tell you about October the 30th, because Mars goes into a retrograde, and that retrograde lasts for the last quarter of the year. And that is also going to be conjunct Mercury when that event begins. So this is your sector of everyday finances. So the last quarter of the year points towards some frustrations. Now, of course, the planet of fortune is Jupiter, and I haven't told you about that yet. Well, Jupiter at the start of this year, I did mention it briefly, is in a square with the North Node in your 2nd house of resources. So Jupiter at the very start of the year is telling you that your values are going to be important in terms of the relationships that you work hard at and the relationships you let go of. Now, Jupiter is going to be moving into Aries this year, but it does return back into the sign of Pisces before returning to Aries later on. So I feel sincerity is going to be a very important part of your relationships. And having Aries Jupiter is of course quite a galvanizing influence, but for you it's the 12th house. So I think it's possible that some kind of spirit guide or way of thinking or philosophy is going to be very important for you this year. But you're always being asked to think about your longer term future and retain your independence from anyone else's dominating view. So though Jupiter can be good, it can be a bit in and out for you personally. And I think the main focus for you this year is the journey of Venus, your ruler. It is that Mercury retrograde that's going to occur just briefly, May 23rd to 2nd of June. It is going to be that Mars retrograde in the last quarter of the year. That can affect finances. But your desire to get what you really want this year, whether it's financially or emotionally or romantically or even sexually, is going to be very strong. But truth, that's what Venus and Pluto are telling you right at the start of the year and the last month of 2021. The truth of your situation, it has to feel right. And the Eclipse series this year is giving you so much encouragement to stand up for what really works for you, Taurus. And that may mean deciding to twist when your general nature in the past has been to stick. But if you do twist and liberate yourself from something that isn't working for you, you can, through really the law of attraction, in the last half of this year, the last quarter particularly, something quite dynamic can happen around a relationship which can absolutely thrill you. So just to remind you, if you want your free daily horoscope, please see beneath this video where you can subscribe to it and get it fired to your device each morning. If you want to access more serious astrology for your year 2022 forecast, if you order it in 21, you get the rest of 21/3, you get 30% off and a character analysis and 12 months full forecast from any time you order in year 2022. But for now, take care and goodbye.